Today we are at Hyzer Creek Disc Golf Course in Providence, New York. We are on hole 10, so if you haven't watched the front 9, what are you doing? Go watch the front 9, come back, pick it up here. If you have, thanks for tuning in. We are now sitting at 2 under through the front 9. Hole 10 is uphill right here. Don't know the distance on this one, but it is right behind that tree, dead center of the screen. Like I said, it's behind it. So, hole 10. I just checked UDisc. It says it's 296 feet uphill. For this shot, I'm going to go with my Discraft Venom and throw a thumber. Hope it comes down, finishes off to the right, and gives me a forehand approach shot, and hopefully it doesn't roll down the hill. That is going to be way too far over to the right. May have came out of those trees a little bit, so there may be an approach shot. We'll see. Well, we definitely ended up off the fairway in some sticks. The forehand is hopefully there. We'll have to see what it actually looks like when we take our lie. The basket, though, is right behind that tree there. You can see it. And that's where we are. So we'll see what we have when we get up there, and we'll be right back. So thankfully some of the stuff here was dead and unattached. I was able to move it to have a little bit more room for footing. It is still going to be a tricky forehand, so we're going to go with the zone. Just try to work something up there. There's a real tight gap right here. This stuff could come into play depending on how low you are. There's a wider line, but there's not really footing for that. So I'm gonna try and go straight through this gap between the trees right here and hope that I can push something up there. Got a decent little skip. There is a putt for sure. So I managed to leave myself roughly a 25 footer or so for the par. This whole thing is still a hill. I've seen many rollaways up here. So after that miss, we're looking at another 10 footer to clean up, another bogey. We are now on hole 11, which is a 150 foot par 3 up the hill through this tunnel. There is an OB road if you go far enough to the left. Basket is right there in the center of the screen. So for hole 10, I'm going to go with the Paul Macbeth Tour Series Luna. Try and make it all the way up this hill and leave ourselves a putt. This gap is definitely tighter than it looks on the camera. We totally went offline. So as you can see, we ended up off the fairway. Disc is straight ahead. Basket is just behind this slanted tree. Still probably about 60 feet or so up the hill. So as you can see, disc is right here. Basket is up there. I really haven't left myself a line. There is a small tree right in the middle. I think the best bet is to go with the zone, try and forehand something out into the clearing and leave myself with a clear shot for the putt to try and save par. That skipped right up, should be within 10 feet of the basket for the par. Like I thought, that skipped up here real nice for a routine par to keep myself at 1 under through 11. Welcome to the views of hole 12. If this hole isn't the signature hole on the course, the only hole that could rival it is 16, which you'll just have to stay tuned to see. But hole 12 is a 711 foot par 4 downhill. There is a creek at the line of the woods, and then it goes slightly back uphill into the woods for the green area. This is one of those holes that just makes you want to unload your bag. So there is a breeze that has been going back and forth a little bit, slight headwind, and it seems like it's kind of swirling a little bit based on the fact that it looks sometimes like it's headwind to the left, sometimes headwind to the right. Ideally, you want to be, for me at least, somewhere down by the first rock, which is the 400 rock. The second rock is the 500 rock. I'm definitely not going to be able to push that. But for this one, just because I'm going to want something with a slight overstability to fight the wind, I'm going to go with my Halo Star Wraith. So that caught a little bit of the wind, got a little bounce up, kind of crashed it out earlier than I had thought it would. We're a little shorter than we'd like to be. We'll definitely make going for the green on our second shot much more difficult. We'll have to see when we get down there. So I did just range this shot. It looks like I'm about 280 from the creek and the start of the woods, and about 360 from the basket. For this shot, I'm actually going to go back to a Wraith, but a different one. This bottom stamped Wraith is a little bit more beat in, slightly more understable. Hopefully I can throw it on enough hyzer to get the distance and the wind won't affect too much. So I thought I threw it on a decent amount of hyzer, but it looked like it wasn't coming out of it. I really liked the line at the beginning because I thought for sure it was going to stable up and go right through the middle. We did hit some of the trees down there, so there is a chance it's in the creek. There is also a chance that it's dry. We'll have to see when we get up there. So we ended up getting a little lucky. The disc is at the bottom of the hill right there, and the OB string is right on that tree there. So we are in bounds. The basket is right up there. So I'm pretty certain I am out of view of the camera for this shot. Sorry about the water noise. There's a slight line, but really there's not much there. Just going to attempt to take the zone and get it as close as I can with a little forehand. So I managed to get out enough and leave myself a 10-15 footer for the par. I will definitely take a par on that, as that was a high risk, high reward second shot, and it could have been much worse. So we're still sitting at 1 under through 12 holes. Definitely a few more tricky holes up ahead though. So we are now at hole 13, which is a 212 foot par 3, which goes straight down through the trees here and then up to the right just a little bit. The basket once again is on a hill where you can get some severe rollaways. That's a theme if you haven't noticed. This is one of my favorite holes. For this hole, once again, I'm going to go back to the more overstable Raptor that I have. I will be throwing a forehand, obviously. That hit something right up by the basket and took what looked like a couple odd kicks. We'll have to see where that ended up, because it looked like it was on a decent line, maybe a little high. So I ended up getting myself into a interesting situation here. The disc is right there. So I've marked the lie. There is a straddle out putt between these two trees that is definitely death staring me in the face. It's about a 20 footer for the birdie. and drain that birdie to go back down 2 under through 13. So we are now on hole 14, which is a 303-foot par 3 up this hill and to the left. There's a couple different lines you can go around this first tree and second tree. You can either take the early inside route with something that's going to push straight a little bit longer, or the outside route, which is going to have something finish a little bit more. For this shot, I will go to my ESP Scorch. I'm going to try and push it straight up the inside gap. Ended up having way too much hyzer on that when I let it out, and it's going to be down a hill to the left. Could be in a lot of trouble. So I've managed to put myself in a very tough situation. As you can see, the disc is straight ahead of us. The basket is actually up behind that tree on a rock. It's definitely looking like we're in jail a little bit, but we'll see what we can do. So assessing my lie, there's a play out here into the fairway, which is definitely settling for the par. There also seems to be a little bit of a sneaky route between the trees here, which does have a nice opening once you get up there. I'm gonna elect to take that and see if we can make something happen. Definitely ended a little wider than I had hoped. We'll have to see how it looks. So the clearing I was looking to push for was kind of through this area or up on the other side of these trees. Unfortunately, that didn't turn out that way. We kind of ended up right here where there's really not much in terms of options. So I'm just gonna kind of lay this one up out there. So that'll be another par, keeping us still at 2 under through 14. We are now on hole 15, which is a 544-foot par 4. Down through the field, there is a street sign up there that the basket is to the left of, back down through a tunnel into the woods. The field looks deceivingly more open than it really is when you actually walk out there and play it. So as you can see from the tee, the sign down there, just to the left of that is the opening in the woods where you want to go back through. For this throw, I'm going to go back to that bottom stamped Wraith just because it's slightly understable. Get a little bit of a hyzer flip up, and then its natural overstability, it will kick in hopefully and take it back to the left. That may be a little bit too far off to the left, we'll have to see. So I did end up off the fairway. Thankfully there is a line to go through. Just to the right of these trees is where the opening is. So I'm gonna go with the zone on just a right hand backhand, hopefully towards the trees, and crash down in there. Definitely missed the initial gap that I was going for. Ended up not being in too bad of a spot. Disc is right there with the basket up there. I don't really think I'm gonna be able to make this putt, but I'm gonna straddle out and go for a jump putt with the Luna. Just hopefully trust on the overstability to get me somewhere up there close. That came down right next to the basket. Looks like it rolled a little bit. Should be a 10 to 15 footer. So yeah, it looks like the disc hit right there. Rolled to here. Should be a pretty routine putt to put away for another par. Currently through 15 holes, still sitting at 2 under par, I believe. I honestly feel like I'm playing not the best I could be playing, and I still putting up pretty decent results. So it makes me feel good. I'm really glad that I was able to come out, play this course one more time before we really got hit with a lot of snow. I mean, middle of December, it's 45 degrees. Hole 16 is another one of those absolute signature holes. You'll really understand it if you've never been here when you see the position of the basket. It is truly a one-of-a-kind hole, in my opinion. It's a 461-foot par 5 downhill that kind of snakes a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, and then goes down more to the right. Once you get down to the bottom of the hill, the change in direction is a little less drastic, but this hole is truly one of those holes that anything can happen. So this is really one of those holes that every time I come play it, I really wonder what I'm going to do. I've tried so many different things and had so many different results that don't even make sense when you really think about it. So for this, I'm gonna go back to the Raptor. I'm gonna try and forehand on Hyzer and have it miss the first set of trees and come down and trust that overstability to get me down around the second trees. I've tried it a few times. It's been good, it's been bad. So that ended up coming out on so much Hyzer that it just came down into a roller. It rolled all the way down the hill, still off to the right. Not sure if there's going to be a line there or not, but if there is, it should be a forehand line. So I don't think that really ended up being that bad. Like I said, this hole is definitely a mixed bag. I mean, there is a forehand line through the trees here. The basket, once you get out in that opening, drops down a little bit. There is an OB creek, but there's definitely a play here. I heard a couple skips there. Could have been really good, could have been really bad. I honestly, from here, do not know. So you can't fully understand it if you've never been here, but the second shot that I had came out right down there. And if we pan over there, down the hill is the basket. However, the basket is sitting in a creek, so everything around the basket is in fact OB. The only thing that's not OB is obviously in the basket. Checking out my lie, there is definitely not a direct line to the basket. So it does look like the eagle is not in the cards today. We're gonna do the best we can with what we have. I honestly am just gonna take the zone and try to get enough Hyzer on it that I can get it to crash some chains and still hit the eagle, to be completely honest. It was definitely high risk, high reward, but I really thought that the risk was going to be going in the water. After that highly ambitious bid to try to get through the trees for the eagle, we hit a tree and are sitting right there with the basket just to the left of that tree. Maybe we can put enough Hyzer on this or forehand putt. I mean, this is for birdie. You really don't want to take a bogey, so let me assess this. There really is nothing here. The likelihood that you miss the basket and actually end up rolling down into the creek does exist. I think I'm gonna stick with the zone and try that again. And we are in the creek just below the basket. Really hate to have a far chance for an eagle, but still a chance, and be sitting there with this now. As you can see, the birdie bid ended up going in the creek. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to settle for a bogey. There's another bogey. That'll drop us back down to 1 under through 16. Hole 17 is a 625-foot par 4, which plays out into the field by the 300-foot rock with the flag on it, and then 90 degrees slightly downhill through a also somewhat tighter fairway. For this throw, I'm going to go with that more understable Wraith, try and throw it on a hyzer, get it to flip up, and finish more towards the mouth of the second fairway. May have been a little shorter than I would have liked. I'll have to check it out when I get up there. I did like the line that it was on. I really did appreciate that flight, so I'm interested. So in all actuality, I actually went maybe 10 feet further than I would have liked. The disc is a little bit pinched off to the basket, which is down that tunnel there. And you can just see the basket, I think, in the middle of the screen. So there's something that we're left with. It's going to be a little bit of work. So what I've left myself with here, I'm going to go with my Metal Flake T-Bird on a forehand. I'm going to have to play it, I think, very close to this pine tree that just kind of overhangs the fairway a little bit, and hope that by the time I get to the end of the fairway, it's coming out of its flight and finishing to the right. Just a friendly reminder, don't be that person who leaves garbage on the course. All things being considered, we're not really in that bad of a spot. I mean, we definitely got lucky and are sitting out of the trees. The basket is still up ahead. It is a par 4, so there is still a chance to get up and down to save par, even though it will take some work. Looking down and looking at the lie, these trees are definitely more in the way than I thought they were from up there. I'm thinking I might be able to kind of stretch out and throw a Anheuser forehand to get something up, hopefully close enough to the basket to save the par. And unfortunately, just not enough Anheuser. It ended up coming out of it a little sooner than I had thought. It's going to be a tester to save the par for sure. After that, just unfortunately an untimely bad throw, we're left with this 80-footer for par. We're kind of in a point where a bogey will take us back to even, so there is some damage limitation that I'm looking for. I'm going to hopefully get something up there. And that was not what we needed. Another tester to save the bogey. Managed to leave ourselves with this roughly 22-footer for bogey. Really need to clean this one up, put it away, and go into hole 18 sitting it even. That's a bogey, which will, like I said, drop us back down to even going into hole 18. Still on pace for my best round. We'll see what comes out of it. So here we are, hole 18 is a 162-foot par 3 straight through this gap. The elevation is pretty close to being flat all the way to the basket. It is a very tight gap, and there is an OB creek at the bottom of both hills. As you can see there at the top of the screen is the basket. For this throw, I'm going to go back to the Big Z Fierce one more time, thinking about going with a forehand. Just hopefully get it through the trees and stay out of the creek, and at worst walk away with a par. We ended up way further off to the right than we really needed to be. I think we did stay safe though, so there is still a chance to walk away with a par and keep this at a even round. Once again, I've put myself in a precarious little spot. Disc straight ahead there, and up this hill is the basket. So there really is no line whatsoever. There is a decent risk of rollaway on the hill. I'd really like to avoid that. I'm definitely at the circle 2 distance though, so I can jump putt. I really just want to get something up there close and hopefully stick without rolling down the hill. And unfortunately, we've rolled pretty much all the way back down the hill. Realistically, I don't even think it was that unfortunate. It was a bad throw, especially with what this hole has for me. I really need this to save par, so I'm gonna try and straddle out and put a jump putt in. Hopefully, at worst, not get another rollaway. I think we had the right distance on it and everything, just a little bit too far to the right. Still my best round here by a couple strokes. It's an improvement, but I really did not play that well today. I know there's a lot more potential. Overall, through all 18 holes, I ended up shooting a personal best of 1 over par. The previous was 3 over par. I definitely left some strokes out there, so it's really good to see how far I've come from the first time I played this course, shooting, I believe, 17 over. Been playing for just over a year. This is actually my first tournament season ending currently, so I really do appreciate you. I'm going to work on getting better quality of everything, including entertainment for this, so I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Stick around for more videos. I also do want to say, if you are ever in the Albany, Saratoga, Springs, New York area, check out Hyzer Creek. Look it up online at HyzerCreek.com. The course is open 365 days a year unless absolutely buried by snow, but you will want to go to the website to verify that the course is not buried underneath snow. It's a really fun course. I think you'll appreciate it.